Okay, that's endo. Here's ecto, which is much larger and external, forms sheaths around the root hairs, and we all know their fruiting bodies, which are mushrooms, like truffles, chanterelles, morels.
Yeah.
Okay, those are all ectomycorrhizal fruiting bodies. I'm impressed. When it comes to native design, this is what gets forgotten a lot. You really need to create a strong backbone to a native landscape. Okay? We use about 75% evergreen plants that have foliar color and contrast, like John Dorley manzanita, like the Santa Cruz Islands buckwheat, like the Yankee Point, like the Bacchus, the ceanothus. That's what's going to keep that landscape looking good all year long. You actually don't have to accept that a native landscape is going to look like tumbleweeds in fall. If it's all perennials and annuals, yeah, you have to deal with that, and that might be a little difficult for public perception. We love them, we don't care, but you know, if you're going to try to mainstream this stuff, you need strategies that are going to make it acceptable to a large part of the populace, and this is what does it. And actually, this holds true to most of our natural communities anyway. If you were to go out in Muir Woods now, it doesn't look like tumbleweeds, or it won't in summertime, right? That's all the evergreen, the manzanitas, the ceanothus, and the supporting foundational plants. And so we create this backbone, and we pay attention to that foliar color. Manzanitas are incredible for giving you foliar color. Sunset manzanita, John Dorley. And the evergreens are important for fire resistance, by the way, too. They seem to be a little better at hanging on to the moisture even in the face of flames. And they seem to maintain a higher level of hydration on the same levels of supplemental irrigation. And then the perennials, your color spots, okay? Your penstemons, in this case, Bachyopsis, you probably don't know what that is. It's a type of San Diego marguerite. We got penstemon, Centranthropholeus, and erigerons. There's erigeron. Yes, I'm using erigerons in San Diego. Those are color spots. They'll go right along the edges, okay? So we don't tend to make a whole landscape out of perennials. For one thing, you have the tumbleweed issue. For another, it's a tremendous amount of maintenance. You get in there and have to do your deadheading. And it also is not as weed resistant as a evergreen type, backbone type landscape. So, but boy, you mix them up, and you mix them up that have different bloom cycles, and you put some epilobiums out there for summer, fall. It looks great all year long. You got something blooming all year long. Here's how we irrigate typically. And all but the narrowest maybe planters, we usually use overhead. I love empty rotators. 12-inch pop-ups on swing joints. This is standard operating procedure for us. Drip has been a problem, drip. We developed these protocols, guys, because when I started in 1995, 40 to 60% mortality was accepted as normal in a native landscape down there. Okay? Now it's running about 5. So 40 to 60% mortality is not a viable business model for someone who wants to be a landscape contractor, okay? So we just try to control the boundary conditions so it's more closer to an ecological system, and not try to introduce anything that we know is foreign to that system, because we don't know how it's going to go rippling through that very poorly understood system of variables that are all interdependent. And if you have drip, it's really easy to switch over to microsprays. It solves the problem right there. Yeah, and it also is good for foliar hydration for fire. When we plant, we space out for final size and use 1 to 5 gallon plants typically. That's usually what's available from nurseries. And here's our mulch. All right. We love shredded redwood bark. We love gorilla hair. Been using it since 1996. No, we're not cutting down redwood forest to make gorilla hair. It's actually a byproduct of the milling process that used to be burned. And at least we're giving it a good purpose. Yes, I'd love to get it to the point where maybe we don't have to use redwood in our construction industry. But right now, at least this product is available, and if it isn't given a good use, an incredibly important ecological use, then it will be burned. And it is the closest thing to emulate the natural duff layer that forms around these plant communities. That's what we're trying to do. Why? Because it breaks down very slowly. I actually don't like dump mulches because A, they're full of all kinds of trash and chemicals and crud and weeds, but also they break down so quickly. We don't want to load up these ecosystems with tons of nutrition. You give these plants all the nutrition they want, what happens, they drop that mycorrhizae like it's a hot potato because it's stealing 20% of their carbohydrates. It becomes a parasite. And you lose all that protection, and these plants flame out overnight. Nothing dies faster than a native plant. It's like that. Okay? So shredded redwood has been incredible as a stimulant for the natural duff layer because you're going into that chicken and egg scenario. And it also is an amazing erosion control. It can stick to very steep slopes, 1.5 to 1 slopes. But when you use it, and this is so damn important, you gotta consolidate it. You gotta water it down and mat it down. If you leave it all fluffy, it will burn like hell, okay? Well, so does steel wool. Did you guys ever burn steel wool when you were kids? It burns like hell. Oh my God, but it's oxygenated, incredibly well oxygenated. This stuff is very fibrous and it mats down like carpeting. That is all the difference in the world between something really flammable and something that has a 2-inch flame height. And by the way, this is how healthy it is. 14 months later, that's what that planting looked like. Okay, it doesn't take long. Oh, you want to know how it burned? Well, here you go. So what was the mistake I made here, guys? No. It's right up to the house. Huge mistake. Last time we ever did that. So very consistent with what Todd was saying. We like these aprons, inorganic aprons around the house. Okay? What is significant about this picture, though? Even though I made that mistake, it actually was serendipitous. Why? Because look at the scorch marks. Okay, 2 inches. All right? These plastic flags went in before the fire. That's right. We just put in a new planting and marked them all for watering. The only one that melted was actually this one because the garden hose caught on fire. Okay? So we have lots of pictures like this. How do we plant? Well, this is a bit involved. Stay with me on this. You dig a hole and you stick them in. Alright? I don't usually amend or fertilize. I like to make the hole a little shallow so they stick up above the surrounding soil for drainage. Twice as wide, backfill the soil, do the plant cans, and you create a temporary basin, especially on slopes, to hold that water. Oh, I hit the wrong one again. Here we go. Come on. I have 6 to 12 inch rocks. I'll put them right on the root ball, and then we'll try to float them back out of the hole. That first watering is the most important that plant will ever see. Okay? We do that because we want to settle the soil and get rid of the air pockets. So we might hit it with 1 to 5 gallons in clay soil, up to 30 gallons in really sandy soil that day. How am I doing?
You're a little over.
I'm already a little over, huh? Okay, I'm going to zip through, guys. One quick mention. Any of you guys have Argentine ants?
Yes.
The little ants that get in your kitchen and that?
Yes.
In Southern California, they're responsible for 75% of the mortality in California native plants. Those bumps are actually scale. They nest in the roots, guys. They nest in the roots, and they kill the native plants by putting scale and aphids all over the roots, sucking all the moisture and sugar out of the plant, and you don't even know what's happening. And if half the plant dies, that's usually the half that the nest is on. They also transmit diseases through this process, directly inoculating the roots. And they also plant weeds like crazy. Like crazy. Not just spurge, all kinds of weeds. And every one of those weeds that they plant is a new place to set up a colony. We have strategies to deal with them. So the last part here is case histories of actual photos of landscapes that went through fire. I know that I'm pushing it here. It's about 5 minutes. What do you guys think? I need to talk to the boss.
Here's what I'm gonna say, let's listen to Greg, and we'll cut our break really short and go right into
Yeah.
Q&A.
Are you guys okay with that? You're very kind, thank you. I love you guys. I'm so honored, I'm serious. You guys have treated me like royalty, thank you. Okay, most fire-involved native landscapes, any contractor in California. A few examples, 1 in the Pumashaw, 2 in the Pines up in Julian, 7 in the Cedar Fire, 6 in the Witch Creek Fire, 2 in the Harris Fire, not Harrison, 1 in Hidden Meadows, and a bunch of other little ones around. Fire marshal for the city of Encinitas actually ran actual burn tests on the gorilla hair. Asked me what kind of fire retardant I was putting in the stuff. There you go. All right. So I want you to know, this is Cedar Fire 2003. Notice the flags. Notice that not all of the mulch burned. This was a major conflagration. Okay, there's the back of the house. It didn't mean it almost didn't burn. There was a cord of firewood stacked back here. The wife and husband got into an enormous fight. Thank God she won. So the husband removed that firewood a week before the Cedar Fire. Put it out over by the propane tank. Also, a lot of hardscape. Look at all the flags. See the flags everywhere? Flags in the burned mulch, still not melted. It also almost burned because they had a wicker fire at their back door. And the flame height was like, I don't know, 7, 8 feet at least. They busted down the door, broke out the interior drywall and stuff, and saved the house. The house also had double pane windows, boxed in eaves, tile roof was plugged, and all the things that they needed to do to harden off this house, and that's why it survived. And that was the look out the back door. Witch Creek Fire 2007, you wouldn't know a fire went through there except for this incinerated Ficus benjamina back there. Notice though the wild grape. Green as the day.